everybody? My name is Mars. You can call me MG if you'd like, and I am sitting on the floor for today's video because this is an unhaul, and all of the books that I plan on unhauling are right down here on the bottom shelf of my bookcase, so I figured it would be easier for me to just sit on the floor and film so that I can grab them and show you the books than to carry them all over to my desk. So here we are. I have 50 books that I'm going to be unhauling today, so let's just get into talking about them. I did split these loosely into categories, and the first category is arcs, which only has one book in it, and that is Georgie Summers and the Scribes of Scatterplot by Isaac Rudansky. I got this off of a giveaway on Goodreads, and it is a middle grade portal fantasy, which sounded like so much fun. There's like writing magic in it, but I DNF'd this. I think I got like 60% in. I gave it like a really fair chance, but it just wasn't cohesive. Like the world building didn't really make much sense. The characters were quite annoying, even for middle school aged children. There were several continuity errors, and I just didn't have a good time. So this is going to be going in a little free library since it's an arc. I'm just gonna pop it in there. These other books I'm planning on having a yard sale for, so I can maybe recoup a little bit of the money I've spent on them over the years, but regardless, they're coming out of my collection, leaving my house, and this is the first one to go. The next category is comic books, because I've learned throughout the years that I'm just not a comic book person. They're really not my thing. I am keeping one comic for my collection, and that is Harley Quinn Red, White, and Black, Black, White, and Red, something like that, just because I love Harley Quinn. She's my favorite character in comics ever. But the rest of these can go. So we have Miss Marvel Volumes 1 and 2, we have Sandman Volumes 1 and 2, and we have Monstrous Volume 1. They're not bad, I just am not a comics person, and if I do find myself wanting to read comics, I will just get them up from my local library, so these are going. The next category is quite simply Neil Gaiman books, and I'm sure I don't have to explain to you why I'm unhauling these. Some of these are actually my boyfriend's books. He's getting rid of pretty much his entire set of Neil Gaiman books as well because we just don't want them in our house anymore. We are both keeping our our copies of Good Omens, which is by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, just for like personal nostalgic reasons, but the rest of these can go. Next up, I have two books that I do want to have in my collection. I just don't want these copies specifically. So we have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is the Netflix adaptation cover, and I just really hate it. And I also have Beowulf. This translation is by E. Talbot Donaldson. I would like the Seamus Heaney translation. Haney? I'm not actually sure how that's pronounced, but a different guy translated Beowulf, and I enjoy that version more, so I will hopefully have these back in my collection one day, just not these versions. Next up is three nonfiction books. So we have The Book of English Magic, which is about like druids and the history of them in England, and I thought this was interesting, but I'm not going to reread it. Then we have Atomic Women, which I actually just read this month. Like at the point of me filming this, it was like last week. And this is about the women who worked on the atomic bomb, and it talks about like the intersection of like gender discrimination in STEM fields, but also the moral implications of working on the atomic bomb. And I thought this was fascinating. I did really enjoy it, but again, I'm not going to be rereading this, and someone else will enjoy it more than me. And the last nonfiction I have is Sustainable Loops. This is like a self-help workbook kind of thing. It's very small. It was self-published years ago. Let's see if I can actually open it and figure out what year it was from. No, there's no copyright page. That's fine. But I got this because the illustrator, Cheyenne Barton, is someone who I watched on YouTube a lot. I really enjoy her content. She still posts, just not very frequently. Connor Miller, the guy who wrote this, was her partner at the time. They've since broken up. I didn't get much out of this anyway. I just bought it to support a creator that I liked, and maybe this will work for someone else. The next two books kind of go in the category of books I would like to own but not in this edition, but I put them in their own separate category, and that category is books that are way too massive because they're big bind-ups and I don't like that. So first up, we have this bind-up of Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. I would like to own both of these, but separately in their own books, because this is massive and unwieldy, and I did read these two books out of this bind-up, and it was not fun. So big. And then similarly, we have Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. It's just massive. I do like the gold edges, and the end papers are beautiful, but like it's just not fun to read out of. So if I do want Grimm's Fairy Tales, I will get a smaller book that's easier to actually hold. The next category is books that I DNF'd. So we've got a nice little stack here. Some of these I DNF'd on a reread, namely, actually, most of them. Never Rolled Wake, The Water in the Wild, Spellbinder, and A River of Royal Blood. I read them and enjoyed them at some point in my life, but when I recently went to, like, reread them, I found that they were not for me anymore. And then the Immortalists down here I picked up in December-ish, and I could not get past the first like couple of chapters because the way the writing was describing some characters was just so icky to me. And then the pairing up here I just picked up this month, and I thought all of the characters were really annoying. I didn't like how they pretty much only talked about sex like every single page, and it just wasn't a fun time, and I'm like, I don't want to put myself through this. So these are going. And then the final category is way too big for me to hold them all up at once because it is just books that I read and finished and just don't want to keep on my shelves anymore. So some of them I've enjoyed, some of them I didn't quite enjoy, some I think that other people would get more out of than me. So let's just go through them and talk a little bit about them. First up, we have the Seafire trilogy by Natalie C. Parker, which is Seafire, Steeltide, and Stormbreak. This is a YA fantasy kind of piratey series, and I enjoyed these. I thought they were fun. I would have thought they were great if they were queer. There's a lot of instances of characters feeling very queer coded but not actually being queer, and that was quite disappointing. I did do a vlog a few years ago at this point binging this trilogy, so if you're interested in that, you can check it out. But I just really think someone out there is going to absolutely love these in a way that I just didn't really. Next up are two books that it kind of breaks my heart to let go of, but I just don't really want them on my shelves anymore. They are, this is Storm of Locusts, the second book. The first book is Trail of Lightning. So Trail of Lightning and Storm of Locusts are the first two books in the Sixth World series by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is a post-apocalyptic series following, is it Navajo? Yeah, Navajo like mythology and stuff. And I thought they were fascinating, but there was a bit of a scandal, we'll say, surrounding Rebecca Roanhorse and the publication of these books. Um, I'm not gonna get into it, but like there's a whole thing. And then we just aren't gonna get the rest of the series. Like these were published years ago. I was in college when I read these, and they just didn't sign her for more books, I guess, and I don't think we're ever going to get the rest of the series, so it's just going to forever remain unfinished, and that upsets me, so I'm going to let these go. These next four books are all ones that I read, enjoyed, I thought that they were good, but ultimately are not for me, and someone else will get more out of them, as I've said. So we have Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. I'm just not a fan of contemporary novels and novels that are meant to make you sad, so someone who really, really loves this genre will really enjoy this a lot more than I did, though I do still see the merit of this book. I thought it was very well crafted. Then we have Bloodleaf by Crystal Smith. I thought this had so much promise, but it didn't deliver in the way that I wanted it to I thought there were several places where something really cool could have been done and it just didn't go the way I had hoped. So I'll be letting this one go. Then we have, if I can pick it up, Zodiac by Romina Russell. This is a book that I loved like 10 years ago when I first read it, and then on a reread, it just isn't for me anymore. I've come to realize that sci-fi is a genre that I like more in movies and television than I do books. There are still several sci-fi books that I enjoy, but overall it's not my favorite genre to read. I might still continue on with this series. There are 3 more books, but I don't need to keep this first one on my shelf. And then we also have The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I enjoy kind of Lovecraftian cosmic horror. I didn't love how this was like pulling directly from Lovecraft. Like I want some original cosmic horror. I don't want people basically making like sequels to Lovecraft stuff. It just wasn't my thing. It didn't deliver in the way that I wanted it to. Next on the unhaul pile is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I just won't reread this. I enjoyed it a lot as I was reading, but the more I think back on it, I'm like remembering details of it where I'm like, actually not a big fan of that. The cover is beautiful. It's getting caught in my hair. The cover is beautiful, and that kind of makes me sad that I'll be getting rid of it, but I know I'm not going to reread this, so why keep it on my shelf if it wasn't something absolutely spectacular? Then we have In the Hall with the Knife, which is a Clue mystery. I picked this up because it is dark academia. It's based on or inspired by the board game Clue, and I thought that was so fun. But it's YA in a way that I didn't really gel with as an adult. I am 26 years old, and while I do still enjoy some YA, overall I'm not a huge fan of the age category, and the way this was written just wasn't totally my vibe. Then we have A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This is another one, and also the one that I will pick up after it, where I might continue on with the series, but I don't need to keep it on my shelf. I'm really debating on if I'm going to continue on with this because it ends in a way that I'm just gonna spoil it, so spoiler alert if you do want to read this and don't want to know what happens, but they start time traveling at the end, and I don't really like time travel stories, so I really don't know if I'm going to continue on, but even if I do, I'm not going to reread this one, probably, so I don't need to keep it. And similarly, we have The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I was so excited to read this, and then it just didn't deliver in the way that I wanted to. How many times am I going to use that phrase? Probably a couple more. It's fine. I can only get rid of books for so many reasons, but I thought this was good but not great, and I might continue on with the series, but I don't need to keep this first one in order to do that. Also, I just don't want the movie cover. If anything, I would have loved to get the like beautiful cover with the green tree on it, but I didn't. I got this one at a thrift store and I don't want it. The next book on the chopping block is Before She Ignites by Jodi Meadows, which is sad because I loved this first book. I thought it was surprisingly amazing. Like I went into it not having super high expectations, but I ended up really loving it, and Mira, our main character, is not meant to be autistic, I don't think, but she comes across as very autistic to me, and as an autistic person, I love that kind of rep in books. But then I read the second book in the trilogy and really, really didn't like it. And then I read the third one and thought it was just okay. And so I'm not gonna buy the second and third books, but I'm also not going to just reread the first book if I ever reread it, but I don't want to not reread the whole series, you know? So I don't really have a point in keeping this on my shelf. This was like a special edition, and it comes with a little guide to all the dragons in it and a letter from the author, which is really cute, but I don't think that's enough to get me to keep this one. We are also getting rid of Ruin Song by Julia Ember, which is just beautiful. I love this cover. I'm not usually a fan of books with people on the cover, but this art style really does it for me. And then on the back, we've got this. This is another book where it had so much promise, and then it just didn't really do it for me. I have seen people on like booktube and everything talk about this book and how much they love it, but I've also seen a lot of people talk about how it fell flat for them, so I'm definitely not alone in that. It just didn't deliver in the way that I wanted. But it is actually queer, so that's a good thing. It's not like some other books where I thought they would be queer and they weren't, and I do appreciate that. Definitely, if you're looking for a standalone YA queer fantasy, check it out, and maybe it'll work better for you than it did for me. This next one is kind of ridiculous. It is Attack of the 50-Foot Wallflower by Christian McKay Heidecker. I got this at the dollar store, and it's so ridiculous that I've kept it on my shelf for so many years for the novelty of it. But thinking back on it, like, I'm not gonna reread it, so why have it take up space where a book that I absolutely adore and will come back to could go, you know? But also, the colors on this cover are beautiful. If there's anything in this pile of 50 books that I'm getting rid of that might make its way back onto the shelf, this is one of them. Like, ugh, I don't know. It's just so ridiculous, but also I don't need it. Then we have Fairest by Marissa Meyer. This is the prequel novella to the Lunar Chronicles, and I love the Lunar Chronicles. All four of those books are absolutely fantastic. This is the prequel that follows the evil queen, the big bad of the series, and it's her origin story, and I just didn't like it. I felt like it was very bland in its reasonings for her to become a villain. Like, oh no, her older sister was mean to her, and okay, well, being mean to her is kind of an understatement. Her older sister was downright evil and kind of torturous to her, which I get, but then she becomes disabled, and that's kind of her villain origin story. And as a disabled person, I'm kind of over the whole like disabled villain thing. Like, yes, obviously your villain characters can be disabled, but like if that's the reason for their villainy, I just don't like that. So I'm getting rid of this, but keeping the rest of the series. And then we have A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and I have read this several times in my life, and I really, really love this, but I think it is time to let it go and let someone else love it more than I do. I feel like with each reread, it becomes a little bit less special to me, so someone else will get a lot more out of this. And now we are in the home stretch, just 4 books to talk about now, the first of which is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. This was a really good read. I did enjoy it a lot, especially as a fan of the movie, but I don't think I'm going to be rereading it, and the sun is now going behind a cloud, so if the lighting changed, that's why. But yeah, I'm not going to be picking this up again, so I don't need to keep it. Then we have the only manga on this list, and that is the first volume of Demon Slayer. My boyfriend and I were going to collect this, and so we bought the first volume years ago, but we've since decided that we don't actually want to collect this series, so it can go to someone else. I do really like Demon Slayer, though. I will say that. I've read the whole thing. I I really enjoy reading manga digitally, so I don't feel the need to collect a lot of manga series, only like my most favorite ones, so that's why I am okay with letting go of Demon Slayer, even though I do enjoy that series. But the final 2 books in this unhaul are both by Darcy Coates. We have Dead of Winter and Hunted, and these were good. I do love Darcy Coates. I've read another book by her since then, but I read it as an ebook, so I don't own it. But I know the twists and everything now. These are horror thrillery kind of books, and I know what's going to happen. I'm not going to have the same thrill reading them since I already know the plot and like who is behind everything. So I'm going to pass these on and someone else can enjoy them for the first time. Or not the first time, if they're people who enjoy that kind of thing on a reread, but I just don't need these on my shelf no matter how much I enjoyed them in the moment. So there we have all 50 books that are leaving my shelves, clearing up quite a bit of space for some new things to come in, maybe. Who knows? We know I love getting new books in, but that is all for me today. So if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone.